Patient Zero: Solving the Mysteries of Deadly Epidemics by Marilee Peters. Chapter 6, Part 2: Mystery in the Jungle, Ebola in Zaire, 1976. Animal disease detectives on the case. On March 23rd, 2014, the World Health Organization confirmed that an epidemic of Ebola had broken out in Guinea. 7 days later, epidemiologist Fabian Lindertz was on a plane heading to Guinea to try to discover the cause of the epidemic. Fabian is a wildlife epidemiologist, a specialist in investigating outbreaks of disease in animal populations. Other outbreaks of Ebola in humans have been linked to epidemics in animals such as gorillas, chimpanzees, and small antelopes called duikers. The disease spreads to humans when hunters kill and butcher infected animals. But in the village of Maliandu, the first people to die of Ebola were two-year-old Emile and his mother, grandmother, and sister. That was a clue that the virus had originated in a smaller species, one that makes its home close to the human populations, like bats. Fabian already knew that some bats could carry the disease without getting sick, including fruit bats that live in the forests of Guinea. If he could prove that the outbreak had spread from bats, people in the region could be warned to stay away from the animals. That could help to prevent further infections. About 4 weeks of surveying the forests around the village of Maliandu, capturing bats and testing them, Fabio still hadn't found any infected animals. Then he heard some intriguing news. Villagers told him about a hollow tree near where Emile and his family had lived, where bats used to roost. The tree had burned down shortly before the investigators arrived, but Fabian suspected that Emile could have been bitten while playing in the hollow tree or become infected through bat droppings. The Bat Connection. Taking an evening stroll in a large city in Africa, Australia, or South Asia, and you may spot something unexpected fluttering through the night sky, dodging between the skyscrapers and high-rise apartments. Bats. Most of the furry flying mammals are newcomers to cities, and they haven't come by choice. In some cases, their forest homes were cut down as people built new settlements or cleared land for farms. Others have ended up in cities when the changing climate forced bat colonies to move in search of food, abandoning the forests in favor of nesting near human settlements. All around the world, bats and people are living closer together in bigger numbers than ever before. That's bad news for the bats, and it also spells trouble for humans. Because of their unique body structures and genetics, bats are ideal carriers for viruses. The viruses don't make the bats sick, but if the bats spread the viruses to other animals, the result can be devastating. Ebola is one example of a virus spread by bats that has caused epidemics in gorillas, chimpanzees, and humans. The coronaviruses that cause SARS and COVID-19 may also have spread to humans from bats. Veterinary epidemiologists are realizing that to prevent new diseases from emerging in infected humans, we need to take an ecosystem approach to health, one that considers the links between weather patterns, wildlife health, and humans. When humans disrupt an ecosystem, they increase the chances that a pathogen will jump from wildlife to us. Since the middle of the 20th century, the human population has expanded and the climate has gradually warmed up, causing unusual rainfall patterns that affect the availability of food for animals. When animals have to change their habitats in order to find food, it often brings them into closer contact with other species and with humans. Environmental scientists warn that this could lead to more virus exchanges between animal species, increasing the likelihood that another virus would jump to humans. the woman who saved a country. In December 2013, the largest Ebola outbreak ever spread from Guinea into Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Nigeria. That's where it found Patrick Sawyer, an American visiting his sister. Patrick's sister was one of the first to die of Ebola. Afterward, Patrick was desperate to get home to Minnesota. He never made it. Patrick collapsed in an airport and was rushed to hospital. Although he was shaken with fever, he demanded to be released so that he could fly home. Dr. Stella Adedevo was the doctor who in charge that day, and she was alarmed by Patrick's symptoms. Close off this ward, she ordered. Get masks, get gloves, all we have. She called the public health authorities to tell them she had an Ebola patient in the hospital. When Patrick learned that Dr. Adedevo wouldn't release him, he ripped the IV line from his arm, spraying blood all over the floor, and tried to escape. 2 days later, Patrick was dead, and the doctor was fighting for her life, along with 19 other hospital staff infected with Ebola. In the end, Stella Adedevo died, one of 8 people killed by Ebola after coming into contact with Patrick Sawyer. If not for her quick thinking, the virus would have started spreading among the 21 million people in Lagos, Africa's biggest city. She may have also saved the United States, where Patrick was headed. She put herself at risk, telling Patrick Sawyer and the other doctors and nurses that it was for the greater public good. In 2014, the World Health Organization declared that Nigeria was Ebola-free. But the epidemic raged for another 2 years in surrounding countries, infecting 28,000 people and killing 11,000. Ebola outbreaks continue to occur in Africa. Ebola's path to patient zero. Scientists have put together a picture of the environmental conditions that led to the start of the 2014 West African Ebola outbreak, using data from weather satellites high above Guinea. A long drought had recently ended with weeks of heavy rains. At last, the orchards and plantations that surrounded the towns and villages of Guinea were full of fruit. The scent of the ripe fruit lured human animals out of the forests, and apes and bats crowded under the trees to feast. Fruit bats are messy eaters, and they would have scattered half-eaten fruit on the ground. An ape picking up a discarded piece of fruit could have ingested a pathogen from the bat's saliva or droppings along its juicy lunch. And once the virus started circulating in apes, the chances increased that the virus would find its way to human through hunting. Zombies. Seen a good movie on TV series lately? How about The Walking Dead, a popular show about a group of pandemic survivors on the run from zombies? Or World War Z, I Am Legend, or Train to Busan? Every year there are new movies about epidemics that threaten to wipe out human life and turn us all into bloodthirsty hordes of zombies. Zombies, or at least the idea of them, have been around in folklore for hundreds of years. Their popularity on our screens these days tells some researchers that people are looking for safe ways to explore their fears about infectious disease, especially as we become aware of how quickly a disease can spread. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention even decided to get in on the act, starting a zombie preparedness campaign to build awareness about how to prepare for emergencies like a zombie apocalypse.